Bang. All right, there we go. Well, welcome, episode number 1 of the language podcast, as I'm calling it right now, because I really have no other idea what I could call this, to be honest with you. This is a little bit of an experiment to see whether or not I would be interested in yakking about languages for, I don't know, 20 minutes every week or something. I thought it would also be good for people who either are following the channel and they appreciate some of the videos that I post, but maybe they don't have time or they don't like flipping through the YouTube shorts, because that's what I've been doing quite a bit for basically the entire duration that I've had this language channel. And one of the reasons I like doing the YouTube shorts is because they're quick, they're easy, and I can upload them very quickly as well. If I do longer form videos like this, the podcasting's like audio only podcast would be different, but if I did a video podcast, which is what this is sort of an attempt at doing, it requires a lot of time to upload, and I hate it, and especially since I live in China. There are some issues with connections, and it doesn't always work smoothly. So that's sort of one reason I've sort of avoided publishing videos before. But all that being the case, I am able to, there are some things I can do to sort of help this situation a little bit. Number one is actually to use a secondary sort of upload mechanism where I can put it onto another website and it ports it over to YouTube for me. I think that might work. So if that works, then this could be very well something that we continue doing for the foreseeable future. The other thing I was thinking about doing, especially since with the YouTube shorts, that they're sort of not, I guess they're not really random so much as they are, what would you say? I don't know, not about any one particular topic. And that's where I kind of want to have this video or this podcast where I can go through the week's videos, maybe summarize them a little bit. I don't think it'd be any better to be publishing them, or sorry, reviewing what they said. I could go through some of the comments because I do get some comments on them. There is a one viewer who does participate in the conversation quite a bit, and very much appreciated to them. I'm just looking here at the list of videos that I've published over the last little while. And so typically what I do is Monday to Friday, I post a YouTube short, something only 1 minute long, and something to do with learning a language. I've had decent success with them. It's grown the channel a little bit. It never really, I mean, I am kind of looking to grow the channel more, but my main focus on this channel is actually to create, what would you say? I don't want to say pronunciation videos. I wanted to create, what would you say? Well, I want to keep myself honest in my own language studies. And one thing that I have encountered in my studies is that in creating a language vlog, I have now spent time, you could argue I'm spending more time on the language vlog than I am studying my language. Languages, because I am studying 2 languages at the moment. Now, is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? The language vlog itself is something that I probably should have started many years ago. I have thought about it going into a language and culture vlog, so showing what it's really like to live in China. And I do travel a little bit. I'm fortunate enough to be able to move around the world, not so much as I used to, but still have one-off trips here and there. And with that, in doing that, I've also taken it upon myself to, like last week I was in Korea, to learn some Korean and try my hand, at some of these sort of ideas that, how fast can you learn a language? What are some skills, techniques, study habits, time management, tips, techniques, and tricks and whatevers to learn another language? And so that's where the idea of this channel sort of came from, was to track what I've learned over the years in studying languages, to track some of the stuff that I see and experience while traveling the world, and then also making sure that there is a audible reference to my language progression. So my Chinese, my Mandarin Chinese, as I am studying it right now, I think the first video I made many years ago, no, it wasn't, it was like 2 years ago. But I do have recordings from prior to that. I haven't posted any of them. Now, if I could find the hard drive that those are posted on, I could probably go through them again. But the idea being that with this channel was I wanted to have not just a public record of it, because honestly, I don't really feel the need to be displaying all of my language learning material or my own faults as a language learner. Rather, I would be more looking to have it for myself that over a period of time, so like from April to April, how has my pronunciation changed over time? Because some people, especially with Mandarin Chinese, I'm also studying Russian, the ability to, I guess, develop that accent. And a lot of people, even as an educator, I say the accent doesn't really matter. And in terms of if you're ever looking to join in one of some of the standardized tests, they don't measure accent, but they measure understandability. So your pronunciation, how clear you are. If you are saying a word, how would the vast majority of people be able to understand what you're saying? And I can tell you, being in the ESL world, that the Indians from India do have a very large reputation for having a very thick accent, even though they speak very good English. Not only that, a lot of language learners or English speakers from India will use very flowery language, like very big words for something that could be conveyed rather simply. And I know that might sound odd to hear, but as a person who deals with classrooms, with multicultural classrooms, and there are books written by this, so I am not by any means, who is it? Snow Shaw? What's the guy's name? I will have to find it. There's a very famous writer who did a lot of, Michael Swan, that's the name. Michael Swan wrote a book for ESL teachers that talks about the different issues, different problems that ESL teachers or language teachers can have in the classroom, and not just like native speakers. We're talking any language learner teaching, any English teacher teaching English as a second language to a classroom full of students from different cultures and different linguistic or language family groups. What are some of the issues that they can expect, and how to address those issues in the classroom? So you might have learners from India, you might have learners from China, you might have learners from Eastern Europe, or even from Australia. And that might sound funny, but I think even Canada requires anyone who's not born in Canada to prove their language proficiency. And this, I've been told that even some Americans from the United States, if they're going to immigrate to Canada, they have to take like a language test at some point to prove that they can actually function in English or in French. Now, I don't know what the specifics are because I have never actually looked at it. I've never looked at immigrating to any other country, to tell you the truth. So this is not something I've always sort of, as an ESL professional, English teacher, I've sort of just taken upon myself that gone with the understanding that I'm only going to be there for a short time, even if a short time's like 10, 15, 20 years. I never really gave thought to immigrating to any other country. So all that being said is that you can, as an English professional, you can encounter these classrooms and understand that learners from different parts of the world might require either different explanations or simply different methods for fixing, correcting, helping, guiding their way to better language proficiency. And by that, I mean, if as an ESL sort of teacher, you might understand what they're saying, but an examiner, given the standards, might not. And then also, on the street. I mean, people might go with you, understand what you mean, but they might not understand the word you say. And of course, I mean, there's all sorts of different examples of that. I don't think I need to give any simply because we all know that. I think it's pretty common that you meet someone. Loud cars in Beijing. You meet someone on the street, you're not going to be picking across or picking out their language problems. You're going to be looking to meet them in their sort of halfway with their communication. So what they actually mean, rather than you know their grammatical functions. That was probably a key feature when the internet became a little bit more ubiquitous back in 2010. That the grammar police were out on the interwebs, on the forums and stuff like that, where they would just pick apart anybody who either made a spelling mistake, a grammar mistake, or simply didn't write, or they wrote the way that they spoke instead of the way that it should be written to be read online. And a lot of people spend a lot of time worrying with their keyboard. So it is an issue. As an ESL instructor who currently resides in China, I mainly deal with Chinese speakers, and the one thing about Chinese speakers learning English and me learning Chinese is that there are certain the Chinese methodology of studying a language is, what can you say, very sort of standard. And so as a result, they kind of look for the easiest, most efficient way of learning something. Now, that's not to say that, very surprising, if you came to China, and you might have the impression that, it's China, 1.4 billion people, they all speak Chinese. I guess most of them do. Though no one speaks English, some of them do. And of all surprising things is that if you came to China, basically, you could meet people who have never left China, yet they speak English fluently. And they might have an accent, which again goes back to like the way that you pronounce a word, the way that you say a word, although it's not the same as understandable or comprehensible pronunciation. That you can actually have conversations with people who have never relocated and instead either used textbooks, teachers, or movies, or even sometimes music, but music doesn't have the same dynamism of vocabulary that either movies would, or books. Definitely books would be your primary sort of source of language learning or knowledge, like vocabulary expansion and grammar awareness. So that's sort of something. Now, to find these people in China, typically you're going to be going to universities to find them as well. Now, in terms of speaking Chinese, this was sort of made very clear. It was actually kind of nice to come back to China. Last on Saturday, I guess it was, we came back from Korea, and it was being in Korea last week was phenomenal because I haven't been there for 15 years. I used to that's where I got my start as an expat so many years ago. I bounced around the world quite a bit, but it was also the first country, first non-English country, first place I lived outside of Canada, etc. And it opened me up to the world of teaching ESL around the world. But my Korean wasn't that good. The other trips I've had over the last couple of years, given that the pandemic took out quite a few years of traveling, it was either within China or it was to places like Canada, where I speak the language, I'm able to function. And even in China, I guess I'm able to function enough to know that I'm going to be confused basically all the time anyway. Like I can't read half of the stuff. I can read a decent amount now, but a couple of years ago, it was largely miss, not a hit, in terms of understanding what was written on a sign or some sort of tongzhi announcement, a sign, biaozhi or tongzhi sign, like a notice that's posted outside, like on an elevator or on a street post or something like that. So going to Korea, was a reminder of, wow, that's what it's like not to know a language. I mean, and I'd been to, I'd lived in that country for a while. Prior to the trip, I spent 3 weeks studying the language. I say studying, I didn't really study. I gave the impression that I was studying, and the reason I say that is because I did take language classes, took about 10 Korean classes total, and I spent, instead of listening to Chinese or Russian during the day for my extensive listening, I switched all into Korean. However, as I got, and I made some videos about this, as I got closer to the departure date, the trip date, I realized that I actually wasn't really studying the language. Like, I wasn't sitting down reviewing vocabulary very much. I wasn't going through grammar structures. Instead, I was relying on the app Lingodeer to refresh my memory for pronunciation. I was relying on my teachers to basically give me very circumstantial vocabulary and grammar lessons. And then extensive listening was the idea that I would acquire the language or an understanding of the language better than not listening to it. If I did another 3-week prep, and if you've been following this channel for a while, last year I actually tried Ukrainian as well, but I did that over a 6-week period and then canceled the trip anyway. I didn't end up going to Ukraine for a variety of reasons. But thinking how I could have have done things better in terms of preparing for that trip to Korea, I don't think I spent enough contact time with textbooks, with specifically conjugations, vocabulary building. I should have been doing more, either memorize, Anki Droid, or even just sitting down and writing out verb conjugations, which is not something that I'm used to doing with Chinese. I mean, I used to write out the Chinese characters quite a bit, but nowadays I basically have spoken Chinese classes more than any other form of class with Chinese. For Chinese, I'm using Do Chinese to read Chinese in the morning, to read very simple or graded stories in the morning, and then a couple times a week I'll have a class with a teacher online, and that's mainly for speaking practice. Nothing too big or complicated. I don't really review grammar much, and I should. I do need to spend more time reviewing Chinese grammar. All that being said, preparation for Korean, learning a language in 3 weeks, I think I could have done 2 to 3 2 hours. I could have done 2 hours of language studies after work, focused, vocabulary specific, grammar, verb conjugation specific, so the iseo, haseo, whateo, whatevereo, so the verb endings, and then also making sure I could do like plurals and like prepositions, like where things exist, sort of thing, like at something, on something, around something, and that would, I think, have contributed to a better understanding of learning Korean and being able to function a little bit better. All that being said, 3 weeks to learn a language, especially Korean, which is considered a Category 4 or Category 5 language according to the Foreign Services Institute in the United States, which is, and I refer to them only because they're one of the sort of foremost places that people go to when they are looking to understand just how difficult a language actually is. So all that being said, 3 weeks learning Korean, it was a reminder and a refresher of what it's like to be almost illiterate and almost mute in terms of traveling and speaking a language and really not having any middle ground to use to communicate the needs and the wants, whatever it is. Like, even if it's, was it the hotoke, which is a type of fried pancake in Korean, very good. They have 3 different flavors: vegetable, red bean, or nuts and honey. Yeah, so it's vegetable, nuts, and honey. So the 3 different types. Anyway, All right, so I will wrap it up there with in terms of this first episode, this first attempt at seeing how this goes. Let me know your feedback if this is at all something would be interesting to use. I'm going to try to do this a little bit more regularly. We'll see if it makes sense. But of course, with the language channel, as I mentioned, again, I'm looking at these YouTube shorts that I've posted. I do post one each and every day, Monday to Friday. It's usually either a question that I have about learning languages or an observation. I also talk about a few apps that I use in different for different languages, whether it's for Korean, for Russian, or Chinese as well. So have a look through them. I know they're very short, but I think by doing the shorter videos rather than focusing on cranking out 12-minute videos. And to be honest, I actually don't like editing videos too much, which is kind of why this is going to be an unedited version of a podcast. So with a podcast, this is meant to be listened to, not so much watched. So that's what I'm going for with this one. All right, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. And of course, if you enjoyed it and you want some more of this, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. I do see people pressing the dislike button, and I'll tell you, it makes me laugh because there are some what I would say very innocuous videos. What does innocuous mean? Oh, good question. There are some videos that I think are completely innocent, and people will dislike them. I can't help but screenshot them and kind of laugh. I do share them with some people that I know as well. All right, thanks again. Hope to do this again, and we'll see you in another week or so. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Bye.